G'day all. So I decided to do something a little bit different for this Halloween, as my original plans kind of got muddled up. So I thought, what better way just to discuss about some of the car movies that we enjoy, especially for this season, this Halloween season, than to talk about and review my recent acquisitions of the Phantasm box set from Arrow Video and the car, along with just talking about the classic Christine on Blu-ray, and just to discuss some of the extras, like how does the films like sort of hold up, and is it worth purchasing and pursuing, and just putting them on for this Halloween if you've got nothing else to watch, and just seeing whether or not they're worth enjoying. So yeah, like I mentioned, I just recently obtained the Phantasm box set, so let's just sit and get right into it and talk about Phantasm right off the bat. So for me, I've always enjoyed the Phantasm franchise. To be more accurate, I've always enjoyed the first and second films because those are the two that I really like kind of grew up with. And when I discovered that Arrow Video had released, a special edition of these films, I thought I might as well pick them up, because initially I was going to pick up the first two films, but here in the UK you can only get the second film in the box set. So I initially picked up the first film, but I had to return it because I wanted to get further installments. But I was told in the UK you can only get it in a box set, so you can't get them individually. So here they all are in front of me, as you can see. You got all 5 films recently come out. As I mentioned, they're all included. They're all in the box set. And we're just going to go through each one of them and just give a bit of a discussion about some of the extras. But like I mentioned, for me, the first 2 films are where all the value is. And back when I was a kid, back in the mid to late 80s, my dad had a VHS store, and that was kind of my introduction to the Phantasm franchise, where before then I wasn't as familiar, because originally the first film in Australia was released as The Never Dead, since we already had a copy of a movie called Phantasm. But the thing that I fell in love with watching the second film first was its star for me, the car, the 1971 Plymouth Barracuda, which in this film it's wrongfully labeled as a Hemi Cuda. But watching that car, watching that beautiful black velvet Barracuda, it was so wonderful. I just fell in love with it, and just over the years discovered that car featured throughout the whole film, all the films. So I thought I'd make my way back over the years and check out the first film, just check out the series as a whole, and it's one of the things where I've enjoyed. I just enjoyed going back and just decided where it's one of those things where I wish more films kind of would commit to, especially horror films, where you don't see it that much, but you do see it part of it continuing on in the TV show Supernatural, where you see the 2 main characters with their muscle car babe just traveling from place to place, fighting supernatural beings, and which is good in that. But this kind of like the franchise that started that, and I just wish more people would do it. But going on with that, all the way up to even recently, the Barracuda stayed within the franchise all the way through, which is something, again, it's very rare to see something that old, and especially a car now that fetches a lot of money, to continue from 1979 with the first film all the way up to 2016 with the last or the latest film, whichever one to call it, because I don't know if they're going to make any more. But just to see that car has remained consistent, or at least, even from part 3, they changed it to a 1970. From a 1971, they went back to a 1970. But either way, it still remains basically the same sort of concept. That black muscle car, that black Plymouth, just continued all the way through. But for me, the first and the second film are the 2 films that really make the franchise stand out for me, and which was the main reason why I wanted this box set. And again, going back to the history, for me, the first one I'd seen was part 2, and it had stuck with me for all those years. I just remember watching it as a kid. I must have been about 7 years old at the time, and I just remember falling in love with the car, just falling in love with some of the concept. But just to see that they've kept throughout the consistencies with that car is just something that I enjoy. Now, having a look at the box set out, you can see just this nice collection of how they've done it. The Blu-rays themselves, the discs, and the covers, they're reminding of the fan favorite, the Sphere. Those chrome spheres that it's just one of the unique flavors of this franchise. When you open the casing, Arrow Video loves to do this, which is a very good inclusion. Although they put their own original artwork on their new releases, they do include the original one as well. They include the original 1979 posters and so forth from 1988 and 1994 and so forth. Now, in terms of extras, again, Arrow Video is been known for putting just a bit of extra effort, and it's very much appreciated, especially in here, where they got a new retrospective. They've included some older interviews and new interviews, and just the inclusion of deleted scenes, behind the scenes, on the during production video, and other especially audio commentary is a nice little inclusion as well, and just stills and so forth. Now, in terms of the picture quality, I must say it is very crisp and very beautiful, considering its age, especially the first film shot on a low budget in 1979. I must say the picture quality is great, where even though it's grainy, it's just that great little upscale where it's just so well scanned and just amazing to look at. So the video quality is there, the sound quality is great, a nice, great little upgrade. Now, moving along to part 2, this for me is the main reason I got, like I mentioned before, this is the main reason I got this set, because I just enjoy the second one the most. And the second one, whereas a lot of the franchise tropes had been introduced. And you can see this in a lot of the extras on this Blu-ray, which, along with some new ones, they brought back some of the old ones from the DVDs. You got your work prints, you got your deleted scenes, you got a great audio commentary by the director. And you can see more money and effort was put into this one, even though a number of years had passed from its previous installment, where a higher budget was put into this and more thought went out into the story. And Universal Pictures surprisingly had passed about nearly 10 years since its last installment in 1979, where in 1980s they decided what can they, Universal Pictures, it was a new producer, what he wanted to reintroduce, and they threw in a bit of extra money, which you can see on screen compared to the first one. But this film here, once again, the thing that they did keep, and I'm so glad they did, was that 1971 Barracuda. But this was the film that, for me, that I just so much enjoyed, especially some of the scenes where the car became a focal point, where you see these two guys, cross-country, driving, going against evil, two guys on a mission. And the main scene that I enjoyed of this one, which I wish they would have added more to it, was the chase scene at the beginning of the third act, where you see the Cuda go up against a 1969 Cadillac hearse. And for a heartbreaking moment, you see the Cuda just flip over and crash in a spectacular manner, and just see it later explode. You think, ugh. But again, it's one of those scenes that are just so great and just add so much to the film. Now, moving along with the part 3, again, because the success of 2 was not as much as Universal had hoped, this kind of the third installment went back to its low-budget roots, and they brought back the original character of Michael, played once again by Michael Baldwin. And this one here, they had kind of picked up where the other film had left off. There are a number of inconsistencies in it, but it's still fun to follow up to see these characters, what happens right after the second film. Now, in this one, instead of the 1971 Barracuda, which we saw destroyed in the second film, they introduced the 1970 convertible Hemi-Cuda. So this time they actually got a Hemi-Cuda instead. Now, you don't get to see it do much action in this film. You just see it drive around a bit, do some burnouts, but you don't see it do as much as it did in the first and the second film. But one of the inclusions in this film that I really did like, and which the director mentions in the commentary wanted to really do in the second film but didn't get a chance to do it completely, was seeing a 1968 472 cubic inch Cadillac hearse, a pink Cadillac hearse, perform a stunt that's just so amazing, just to see it fly through the air, do a pipe roll. And it's just so amazing just to watch behind the scenes footage of that stunt, just to see what they did. For me, it's one of the highlights of this film. Moving along to the fourth film, Phantasm Oblivion, this is where for me the franchise kind of started going on its own tangent. So it kind of went, a bit here and there. And what they did was they reintroduced old footage from the original film. They reintroduced footage that wasn't used in the film. So in this film, you get the continuation of the Cudas, you get the 1970 convertible Hemi, but you also get footage of the 1971 making a comeback, the first Barracuda making its comeback, be it in deleted scenes. But again, it's still a nice, enjoyable film. It's a continuation of the franchise, so it is worth a watch. Now, coming along to the fifth film, this is where they kind of went too far off. This is, a lot of people have mentioned it's not their favorite for a number of reasons, and one of those being the budget. Now, Don Coscarelli didn't direct this, and in interviews, behind the scenes, you can tell what they were going for, but due to budget reasons, you can see that the quality is just not there. It does feel a lot like a student film, But at least they got the actors back. They brought back as much as they could. They got Angus Scrimm, the late great Angus Scrimm. In a number of shots that he's in, you can see his health is deteriorating, but this was just before he died. And the other good thing is they brought back the original 1971 Plymouth Cuda. So, in a contrived manner, but again, you see it in a modified form, but at least it's made its comeback. Although this fifth film does open up for a sixth installment, it's kind of like, leaves it there. It's a tail end to it, and you can enjoy it for what it is. Now, moving along to my other acquisition, again from Arrow Video, is the 1977 horror car classic titled The Car, obviously, just The Car, which fan favorite of a lot of you guys as well, especially from my top 10 list. You guys will mention why it wasn't number one, which one should have taken the top spot. Now, from what I gathered, Shout Factory had released in 2015 its own version of The Car on Blu-ray, and it came with a number of other extras, one of which was like director interviews and cast interviews and so forth. Now, from what I've gathered, Shout Factory, for whatever reason, I think licensing issues, can't be released in the UK or Region 2. So, it's one of the aspects where we had to get its own thing. So, Arrow, from what I gathered, made its own collection of extras on this one. So, you get, stills, you get trailers, and you get one or two interviews, one of which is actually pretty good, where you do get, a special effects supervisor interview. And the commentary itself is a bit... it's a good inclusion. We got the director's commentary, but it is somewhat lackluster. I think the energy's not there. Although there's a second person trying to move the commentary along, it is somewhat a bit just, there's not as much excitement as I would have hoped. There's not as much excitement, definitely, as the Phantasm commentaries. But the quality of the film itself, just the upgrade, just to see the quality of, again, of these older 1970 films, to see Arrow, just to upgrade them so well, to see the quality just go up so well, and the sound quality, just everything about it is just a nice little inclusion, and it's just so easy to chuck in and enjoy. Especially seeing the car itself, the 1971 Lincoln Continental Mark III, which you see in all its pretty much HD glory. It's just to see it there. It still holds up. It's pretty freaky even to this day. Now, moving along, although there's already been released the 35th anniversary 4K, I was able to come across this Blu-ray from released by Powerhouse of Christine. So I picked this one up, and basically what I'm going to do eventually, when I do get my hands on the 4K Christine 35th anniversary, I would like to do a side-by-side comparison, but I wasn't able to get it in time for this season. But basically what I'd seen in this one here, it's more or less an upgrade from the 2004-2005 special edition DVD of Christine. Basically reintroduce all the extras from that DVD, from the 2005 DVD, and for me it's just one of those inclusions that makes me question whether or not it is worth upgrading to a 4K. Because inside you got a number of the original interviews of the cast and crew, and just the talking about the making of the film, just how it came to fruition, just everything behind the scenes. And you got a number of deleted scenes going on. Again, everything's brought in from the DVD. And one of the highlights for me in this one, which is usually the case with John Carpenter, is the audio commentary. So he does an audio commentary with Keith Gordon, and it's just enjoyable to listen. And also one of the extras that I really enjoy in this one here is that score-only track, where you can just select and just hear just the background music, that John Carpenter beautiful background music playing throughout. And let's not forget, you also get that beautiful cherry red 1958 Plymouth Fury that just... It's amazing to see that car on screen. Just always looks so beautiful, especially, when they're under the right lighting. It's just such a beautiful car. But, yeah, so like I mentioned, for this Halloween, if any of you guys are wondering whether or not what you should pick up or what you'd like to sit down and watch, I do recommend, all these films here. They're actually quite nice to enjoy, like this Halloween. If someone asks what's something worth watching, I would recommend the first two Phantasms, and just also watching The Car and Christine as well. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this mini review that I've decided to do. And if you haven't already, just remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.